Hello guys, Anders here with another video. This time we're going to take a look at the week's Global Labs update, focusing on the PvP balance changes. But before we get into that, if you find these videos useful, please don't forget to like and sub to the channel. If you haven't already, every sub counts as we continue to grow. If you want to go the extra mile, you can support the channel by making a small monetary contribution and clicking that join button below the video or on my main channel page. Doing so will give you a badge next to your name every time you comment, as well as a few other perks like in-game codes and sneak peeks at content soon to be released. If you want, you can also check out Exit Lag and use my affiliate link to get free 3-day trial of the software. It's a ping reducer that helps especially with those of you with a more unstable connection. I use it whenever I play on the EU servers for BDO. You can use the code Anders at checkout for 15% off your order. Now, in terms of the Global Labs patch notes, a lot of stuff to go over. It's going to be a long one, so we're going to mainly focus on the class modifier changes. So basically, we were shown all the class modifier changes per class. What this means is that we now understand what each class modifier is in comparison to what it was and how it pertains to the damage you deal to other classes. So I made a little chart here. There's a lot going on here, so I'm going to explain it as best as I can. So we have every class in the game. Now every class in the game in PvP will deal damage to every other class in the game, of course, right? So now you can see the changes in the modifier. So what we have right now is the baseline. With the test server, we now have changes to that baseline. Some classes now deal less damage to other classes and some deal more damage. There are a few classes like Sorceress, Berserker, and Warrior that also receive skill changes as well. Those are different. So if a Sorc, for example, deals less damage overall, that does not mean that it's a nerf. They also received quite hefty buffs to their skill damage, including Dream of Doom. So we don't know the full picture on that yet. I was able to test a couple classes. I play Guardian, so I was able to test the class against Archer and against Sorc, so I'll go over that a little bit later. Now, as for Warrior, Warrior now deals minus 2.43 to Warriors. So these are points. These are changes to the balance modifier, so it's minus 2, so less damage on the baseline against other warriors. So we can see that it deals now less damage against warriors. Now warrior is one of those classes that I said did receive some skill changes as well, so it's not a full picture, but from what we can see that the baseline modifier has changed. Warrior against Sorc now deals a hefty amount more damage. So these numbers, I'll give you a baseline. Basically less than 10 is okay, above 10 is pretty substantial, so keep those numbers in mind. Less than 10, okay. Over 10, pretty hefty. Now, against Sorcs, Warriors will now deal pretty hefty amounts of damage. Against Rangers, they've received quite a bit of a nerf to the damage against Rangers, and they've received a buff to damage on Berserkers, Tamers, Valkyrie, Musa, Meiwa, Ninja, Kunoichi, Striker, Mystic, and Lan, and Shy. Poor Shy. Witch and Wizards, not really much of a change, a slight decrease of damage against those classes. Dark Knight, less damage against them. Quite a bit less damage against Archers, but Archers are inherently squishy, so I'm not sure you'll be able to notice a difference there, and a little bit less damage against Guardians. Now, Sorc, you'll see, has a lot less damage across the board. A lot less damage against Sorcs, a lot less damage against Warriors, a lot less damage against Rangers, Berserkers, Tamers, Valkyrie. Let's see, Witch and Wizard as well. Hefty less damage against Striker and Mystic. Kind of makes sense considering Striker and Mystic are supposed to be counters to Sorcs and magic users. Lan, less damage against them. More damage against Archers and Guardians, which kind of sucks. As a Guardian, I can tell you Sorc is one of our worst matchups. Just because it's very hard to hit them. If you rotate too many SAs, you're just going to die to the damage. Now, Ranger, she's received less damage now against Warrior, less damage against Sorc, more damage against other Rangers, more damage against Berserkers, Valkyries, Musas, Meiwas, Ninjas, Kunos, Witch, Wizard, Dark Knight, Striker, Mystic, Lan, Archer, Shy, and Guardian. So across the board, just more damage against other classes. They've given her what it seems to be the ranged appropriate role. So now she does more damage against more melee classes. Berserker is another one that received some skill changes as well. So their modifiers are a lot less. They look worse than it really is. So for example, they do a lot less damage against Warriors, Sorc, Ranger, Berserkers, Tamers, Valkyries, basically almost every class except Archer and Guardian. Even some modifiers look extreme, but again, the buffs to the skill damage on Berserkers is actually insane. So including Q buff now got a hefty amount of more damage. So we'll see exactly how much more damage or how much less damage they're doing when this hits live, or other Berserkers maybe on Global Labs or have been able to test. I wasn't able to do that. Now Tamer, overall less damage. I mean, across the board they do less damage, specifically against Ninja and Kunos for whatever reason. Valkyrie overall above average, I would say. She does a little bit more damage across the board to most classes except Warrior and Sork. It's the same damage against DK. There was actually no change in the baseline modifier. A little bit more damage against Mystics and Lons and Shais, and a little bit less damage against Archers. Now, Musa overall received a little bit more damage, specifically against Tamers. Less damage against Valkyries, against Musas, against Mewas, Ninjas, Kunos, Witch and Wizard. A little bit less damage against Strikers and Mystics as well. And they're doing a little bit better now against Lons, Archers, Shais, and Guardians. I mean, Shai, we can just kind of roll that column out. Now, Mewa, very similar as well, although they seem to be doing a little bit more damage overall than Musa. They are struggling against the Striker and Mystic as well, but not as much. And overall, they do a little bit more damage against Guardians. Ninja Kuno are very similar in how they deal the damage now, although previously there was quite a big difference between Ninja and Kuno damage dealt. Although with the Warrior, the Kuno does a little bit more damage. Sork as well, Ranger, Berserker, Tamer, Musa. I mean, they're doing across the board more damage to everything except Valkyrie, DK, Striker, and Mystic. So overall, pretty good for the Kuno and Ninja. Now for Witch and Wizard, this is an important one for Node Wars. So basically, they're doing more damage against Warriors, a little bit less against Sorks, more against Rangers, which is pretty devastating, to be honest, for those Rangers. Berserkers, more damage against them as well. So that's a very popular Node War class. Ninjas and Kunos, more damage against them as well. More damage against Witch and Wizards. More damage against DKs, Striker, Mystics, Line, Archers, and even Guardians. A hefty amount more damage against Guardians. So that is insane to me that Wizards and Witches have been getting a lot more damage output through this patch. We'll see how that affects larger Node Wars. DK overall, a little bit more damage overall. They've only really lost some damage to Valkyries, but overall they've gained damage through everything else. So I think that's pretty good. Dark Knight Succession is already very strong, but just underused, underutilized, I think. Not many good Dark Knight Succession players out there, in my opinion. Now for Striker Mystic, very similar as well. They've lost some damage against Warriors and Sorks, Rangers and Berserkers. Tamer, Valkyrie, they both gain damage against them. Gain damage against Mewas, Ninjas, and Kunos. Specifically, the Mystic getting a lot more damage than the Striker, which kind of makes sense. She dealt a little bit less damage than Striker. Witch and Wizard, a little bit more damage for the Mystic and a little bit less damage for the Striker. And of note, I would say the Lon, a little bit more damage against them, and an Archer as well for the Mystic, which the Mystic was always a very tough matchup for the Archer, or the Mystic had a hard time with Archers is what I mean to say. Now Lon overall, pretty average, nothing too drastic. They do a lot less damage against Musas for whatever reason. And Witch and Wizard. So those are the big ones. Striker and Mystic also, they lose a lot of damage against Striker specifically. Not sure why, but there you have it. Now for Archer, they are very interesting because now they deal less damage against Sork and Warrior, more damage against Rangers, less against Tamers, Valkyries, and Berserkers, more against typical Assassin classes, and a lot more against Witch and Wizard, which is very good for those people that play Node Wars. A lot less against Mystics, which is very good for the Mystic. Archer and Archer is about a little bit more damage as well, and a lot more damage against Guardians. And I can tell you, as versing a 301 AP Archer with, I think it was 350 DP, I felt the damage difference. It was substantial, to the point where I would run out of frontal quite a bit faster. So I'd have to play more aggressive and try and catch the Archer faster, and not play too much with the shield block or my frontal guards, because it would just melt. Now Shai, because they said it's a life skill class, does not receive any sort of balance modifiers, but we do know it. If you want to know the balance modifiers, basically they do about 40 to 50. So the balance modifier is about 100 on average. Shy does 40 to 50 to every class, so it's substantially low compared to what other classes have. That's why Shy does basically no damage to most classes. Now, Guardian is another one that a lot of people are looking into. So overall, they've only been nerfed against ranged classes, basically. So they do less damage against Rangers. They do less damage against DKs, Archers, and Guardians. Not sure why against Guardians as well, but there you have it. We do more damage, slightly more damage against Witch and Wizard, against Ninjas and Kunos, which is fine. I find as a Guardian, you really only struggle against high evasion targets because just Guardian doesn't do well with high evasion. But overall, dealing less damage to Archer, I don't think is a big issue because they're so already inherently squishy. Again, with the Ranger, the same thing. Even though you do less damage, you still have plenty. You're overkilling right now on live servers, so I don't think the damage decrease for Guardian specifically is going to make a difference. And that's pretty much it for the class modifier changes. Of course, if this is very confusing, I've tried to make it as simple as possible, but of course, just leave a comment down below. I'll try to explain it a little bit better. We have a couple more things to go over before I leave you guys. So in terms of test server, we also got a new island. Well, the Aquila Island, the Crow Island that we know that is hidden. Now they have a new wharf manager, so you can actually dock your ship there. You can repair your ship there as well. You can buy supplies for your ship. There's new NPCs roaming around. There's a couple of knowledge NPCs as well. And there's a new quest line that opens up the door behind that NPC where you exchange the Crow coin that was there before the one from Lima Island appeared. So that door is now open once you finish the new quest line. However, the new quest line requires another quest to be completed, so I couldn't start it. You also need Papua Crimea. We don't even have Papua Crimea. That means we're not going to see that content for a long time. Probably like at least a month or two, if that, guys. But what is interesting about the Crow Island is that they've added an arena. This is not an arena where you fight other people, other players, like PvP. It's more the BNS tower where you go through like different levels and you fight NPCs and bosses. That's kind of how it reads like from the description in the Global Labs test notes. So we'll see if someone is able to unlock that. I'll try and get to the quest and unlock that whole thing. But for the meantime, all we're seeing is that there is a new arena that is connected to this new quest line in this new area that you will open up, and you'll get these seals. And the more seals that you have, the more NPCs that you can fight. It seems that's how it's going to work. There's also, speaking of seals, the Imperial Delivery seals, they've changed as well. So they have new things that they can give you. I'm guessing they're mostly going to be Manos related things. So Manos crops and Manos clothes for that specific life skill. It makes sense. Those are way overdue to be updated. And finally, before I forget, the skill window has finally been modernized and revamped. So it's completely different. If you do play Black Desert Mobile, you'll notice it looks very similar. It's kind of like the same style, but now we have an awakening set and a succession set that we can have, and we can save different skill sets. And you have, I think it's 4 slots to save your skill sets. So if you want to upload your skill set or skill spec on another character on a different account or whatever, you can do that through this. It also shows your actual character doing the skill whenever you click on the skill to see what it looks like. It's a little bit hard to figure out how to maybe put your skills into your hotbar since you can't actually see your hotbar, but the button next to where it says reset all is actually the hotbar key, so it shows up your hotbar and you can drag the skills to your hotbar. You can even test them out by using that dummy hotbar that they give you. Overall, I like what it looks like. The skill preview window is a bit large, and I don't like that it's full screen, so you can actually see what's going on around you in the game. I do say that's probably one downside. They could make it smaller, but if they're going with this whole, I guess, full screen cinematic approach, it does look nice. I do like that you have now an awakening spec and a succession spec that you can save. So if you do go from one to the other regularly for PvE to PvP transitions, you don't have to go back and take out the absolute skills. So overall, I think it's a good change with the skill window. I like that there's now specs that you can save and upload Very, very good change for that. And as far as I know, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you thought about these balance changes in the comments down below. Remember, for some classes, some skill change was also applied for Berserker, Sork, and Warrior are the ones I'm remembering right now. So keep that in mind. We won't really know if this is the final. This is completely different from what we saw a few weeks ago. This is completely a different vision of what they want to do. And for the most part, I think it does a good job. It's less on the nerf side and more on the buff side for most players. I think most people are going to be happy dealing more damage against Guardians, dealing more damage against Wizards and Witches. I do have concerns that Wizard and Witch was not really that touched at all. Specifically, Wizard Succession damage is a bit out of control. I think I was okay, honestly, if they went and said Guardian damage was also out of control. Here's some nerfs. I'd be okay with that too, because it is out of control. So we'll see if there's more changes down the line. But from what I can tell in the way they've kind of structured this patch, if we see this in Korea next week, we are probably going to see this in about 2 weeks on live servers global. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.